Today I'm going to talk about autism and autistic burnout. If you look up autistic burnout, it says that someone with autism who tries to appear as neurotypical, after years of doing so, the strain of that can cause an autistic person to fall apart and their autism symptoms may become worse. Uh, to really tell you about how autistic burnout affects me, I first am going to tell you about meltdowns. And for me, a meltdown happens when I'm overstimulated because autism's a sensory disorder, or just overwhelmed by a situation or an outside stressor. I've noticed that my meltdowns have cycles, and it starts with a stressor or a couple of stressors, and then I'll begin to feel irritable and angry. I may lash out and yell at like a family member who I've called to talk to because I know that I'm feeling this way. I'll then get very sad and I'll cry a lot. And I then feel guilty and really defeated because I had a meltdown. I get really hard on myself because I'm very high functioning. Um, as I know a lot of people are. And so when I have a meltdown, I feel like it's a setback or I've messed up, I've failed. Um, but after I go through like that guilt and sadness, I apologize a lot and then I am just exhausted. And so that's what a meltdown looks like for me. And I'll actually go over my meltdowns and triggers and ways I cope with them in another video. But today I really want to just talk about autistic burnout. So for me, autistic burnout is when there are multiple large stressors that I can't remove myself from. I can't get out of the situation. Um, then I'll actually go through multiple meltdowns, multiple cycles, either once a day, a couple times a day, for a few days in a row, sometimes like 5, even 10 days in a row. And this doesn't stop until I can find a way to recharge or reset myself. So my first experience of autistic burnout, that I know of that I can really like say that's autistic burnout. That was 2 years ago. I was a senior in college. It was my first semester and it was finals week. I was going through these meltdowns. I think I had one like 5 days in a row. They were intensifying. Hi, Banks. I was yelling a lot, feeling very hopeless. I would have a meltdown, then feel guilty and defeated, like I had done something wrong, and say, like, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to lash out or say mean things, and tomorrow's going to be better. And then it would happen again. And I think it happened 5 days in a row, possibly longer. But at the time, I wasn't aware of autistic burnout, but I had seen like suicidal ideations within my family. There's a history of suicide and attempts. And so for me, I thought, this is it. This is what being suicidal feels like, because I just felt very hopeless. It felt like no matter what I did, I wasn't going to get better and that I was just going to have a meltdown every day from now on. So I chose to actually go inpatient, because during my meltdowns I can get impulsive, and I started saying things like, I don't want to live. And so I went to the hospital and talked to them about how I was feeling, and talked to them in depth about it, and I was admitted inpatient, even though I hadn't made an attempt. Because of the ideations I was having, I was able to be admitted. Well, once I got to the hospital that I was put into, I was fine. All like the nurses, like like they all had said, like, you're not like anyone in here. You're always so happy and bubbly, and I was just very cooperative, and none of the symptoms I had told them about before I was in the hospital were showing up. Well, it's because when I got to the hospital, I was removed from the situation. I wasn't worried about my finals week. I was told that I could reschedule those tests, and I had a break. And so that, for me, sounds like very classic autistic burnout. When I did get out, I was able to take my finals, and I did just fine, and I was put on some new medicine, and like things were fine. I had the time to recharge. So now, 2 years later, I'm starting to feel like this again. And the way like it feels is it's not so much about trying to look neurotypical and feeling drained because of that. It's being drained from trying to look neurotypical because now there are these big outside stressors I can't get away from. In my speech, I mentioned that I lost my mother. I actually lost her a year ago to suicide, and that is something I'm still coping with and grieving. And it's not something I can get away from. I can't take a break and come back to it. But there are other things that I can do. I can talk to my family and my support system about how I'm feeling. I can find what's stressing me out that I can control, and I can change that. So my apartment, it gets messy when I'm grieving and feeling overwhelmed and going through these things. So I can reach out to a family member or friend, and I can even offer to pay somebody $20 to help me clean up. And that's okay. You just have to do whatever you can to get through this, because it's not going to be every day. It's just going to be until you can reset or get away from the situation if you can. And so right now I'm working on resetting myself by opening up and talking to people, asking for help. And also, I was given some advice that when you're going through a hard time and you're having like a lot of trouble just feeling better or moving on, the thing to do is to get outside of yourself. And so today, I'm using Adapt and Succeed as a coping mechanism. Because if I can get outside of myself and tell you guys what I'm struggling with and what I have struggled with, and it's something that I know might be able to help at least one other person, then maybe that will snowball and I'll start to feel better. And after making this video, I'm starting to feel better already. Thank you guys for listening. Like my page, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Thank you.